the things that the school board and the city council have had issues over many years concerning, we felt that if we sat down in a joint public work session, appreciated Mr. President making sure that we spoke correctly, that this is a public meeting, and we did, and we are, and so none of us have anything to hide in transparency. We're just trying to work together for the benefit of this community. We have certain responsibilities as city council and so the school board. We're just trying to figure out how to best do this and meet the statutory obligations as elected officials. So thank you very much for coming, because some of these issues have been stewing for a long time. They need to be resolved. So let's start. Perhaps I was talking for a moment with Councilman Franco earlier, and there's been a long outstanding issue regarding some water shares that were to be conveyed from the school to the city as part of a school development. And everything I had seen looking into it was that it was really a non-issue. It was over, the dispute was not over giving the city the water. It was that when a certificate was presented, it was for more shares than the city required, and so it needed to be split into two certificates, and one went to the city and one went back to the school. And that went to the water company, and they wanted $100 for splitting the certificate into two. And there was a little dispute over who wanted to pay the $100 or whether they wanted to be 50-50 or whatever. And the certificate didn't ever get delivered because of that little dispute. I think that dispute was resolved. I think the mayor directed that the school district paid its half of the $100 fee. The city paid its half a couple of years ago, actually, under the direction of the mayor. And the offending certificate that's never been delivered, that has been sitting over at the insurance company, or the water company, waiting for the city to pick it up and get it. For whatever reason, I believe that water certificate issue has been completely resolved, and the city, all it needs to do is get a certificate from the water company, and it's done. So I think that's, I believe that. So that's my hope. And if there's still an outstanding fee, what the school district said to the city, and I think I said it to you last time I was in the meeting, if there's a $50 fee, we will pay it in order to resolve that concern. Make sure you get your water certificate. If we want you to have it, we don't have this drag on. So that's not a big issue. So if you need it, let us know. We'll find that. The second issue is one that had kind of become a really sticky burr under the saddle of everyone, and that's the great issue on the Wasatch Irrigation Company Canal. We both have relationships with the irrigation company. The city has some stormwater that goes down that canal, and we needed their permission to relocate it and pipe it from an open ditch to put it in a pipe underneath the school so it would be safe for kids. We both approached them. We've got a runoff deal with them. We've got a piping agreement with them. And both those agreements create certain rights and responsibilities. And then came up the issue of the grid. And you all know the history of it, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But the question had always was, this grate is going to get cluttered with debris, and somebody's got to clean it off. And the city had agreed to do that, and had asked the school district to participate. The school district had said, no, thank you, it's not our, whatever, you know the reasons for it. Well, there's a lot of effort being made right now to get these little things out of the way so we can do our business cooperatively when it comes to building schools and impact fees and the kinds of stuff that's the bigger issues in this country. So in an effort to bring us together, we said, on behalf of the school district, we'll pay that half. Let's put that issue behind us once and for all. And I drafted an agreement. We've got a copy of that. I just want to pass that. And I've worked with Mr. Smedley to have his feedback and input. And I've worked with our insurance company. Now, both of us are insured by risk management. And there was a fairly interesting issue that came up from the insurance company about entering into this agreement. And it had to do with liability and with changing the relationship from and undertaking responsibilities by contract that were not, that neither one of us were contractually obligated to, but for this new agreement. And the idea is, as public servants, and you have a strong legal precedent in your favor on liability issues that, what do we call it, called governmental immunity. You ever heard of that? So governmental immunity means that there are certain liability concerns that you're not responsible for if you do your work in good faith. And yet there's an exception under your insurance policy for things you agree to take on by contract. And so the issue was, if we make a contract between us that changes the liability structure from the way it existed with the irrigation company by doing a deal amongst ourselves that we call a contract, then we could be waiving our governmental immunity. And that would not be smart. Neither one of us want that. So I crafted an agreement that was based on the principles that we will pay half the cost. You do it, you invoice us, we pay back, and we'll do that. We'll have an agreement and we will do it. But we'll do it in a way that doesn't alter our governmental immunity and our liability going forward, because who knows if what causes this problem, if there is a problem, might be the fault of the irrigation company. And we don't want to let them off the hook by reason of something we do. So I wrote the agreement in a way that says we'll share the cost, but we won't change the liability structure as it presently exists under our existing agreements. And we ran that by the Attorney General's office and the risk management pool, and we got a written confirmation that they're okay with the way this deal is structured. We got that, and so we feel really good about saying you can enter into this agreement to share the cost of cleaning that grate without altering your liability structure or messing up your insurance that we all want to keep in place. Yes, ma'am.
Did you also show the Utah State Attorney's Office and the other Department of Ombudsman's Office, did you also show them the original great agreement where you took on full liability?
We did, and there's still a disagreement about what that means, but it's being settled by the settlement agreement. Okay?
Let me clarify, that issue is not before the ombudsman.
It's not an ongoing issue.
But you did show it to them. So
No.
you,
No.
well, see, that's what I'm asking.
The
Because
ombudsman
that's,
only has the impact fee issue before.
oh, so you said you showed it to the
State Attorney General's office, who represent, they are the legal counsel
and the risk management.
for our risk management. We're all insured through state risk management group.
Right.
And so we ran it by the attorney in the Attorney General's office, a gentleman by the name of Blind, gave him a copy of the agreement, asked for his blessing, and he gave it to us in writing. So
he thinks it's a good deal for you to give up
it's a
that
good deal for both
liability.
of us. A good deal to what,
I think
ma'am?
it is a very good deal for you to, be billed half when you took on initially all of the liability. At least that's what my interpretation was
I
in that
understand
original
that we
agreement.
have differences of interpretation about what
Yes.
that means.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it's a good deal. I
For
hope
the
for
school
everybody.
district.
The point is, it's a deal to split the cost 50-50, and it doesn't mess up our insurance coverage or our potential liability or our governmental immunity. And those were important things in drafting that agreement. So I'm comfortable sitting here tonight and showing you the draft of that settlement agreement and representing to you that it will accomplish our purposes. When I came before you last time, I said, we want to get this resolved. And we want you to pay half. And I said, I'll go to work on it. I did, and we did. Yes, sir.
Being the new guy on the block, I'm trying to understand what it is that disagreements move forward, you assumed the liability before you created the hazards or the issue of the grade and everything else. So what is it you acknowledge or don't acknowledge of that formal agreement?
We have never
I can appreciate
acknowledged.
not putting, assuming liability in writing so that everyone gets off the hook. I can understand what you're saying there, but did you initially acknowledge the responsibility for the grade?
Never.
Never did.
Never have, because we disagree that we have liability of any kind for the grade which is not on our property.
Well, we're talking now about cleaning.
We are.
Trying to get out of the liability, but they do not put the grade that needs cleaning there.
I probably.
Well, I'll just say it, it's the elephant in the room. This is Mr. Brashaw's wife, a school board president that signed that agreement. So how can you say that it's
You're
not?
calling my wife an elephant?
So, here's my response. I think
I just don't know how you can't acknowledge that when she signed it with the legal authority to sign for the liability. I just don't understand it.
I've read that agreement with Mr. Mumford and with the city attorney and with many other people, and there's room in that to have a genuine legal disagreement about what that language says. And so it's both sides. In this case, the city can say one thing clear over here on this side and say it's 100% yours, and the school district can say and legitimately have an argument that it's none of it's ours. And meeting in the middle and resolving it, consistent with the proposal, I think is a great resolution for both sides. So it's just as easy to flip that question back on its end and say, well, why don't you just acknowledge that it was all your fault? And that's how disagreements get going. And when there's been great effort made to understand and compromise and find a solution. And I think that has resulted in a wonderful agreement. So I'm hoping that I don't hear anyone saying from the city's side about the elephant in the room that we're trying to take back our offer of 50-50. I don't hear that. What I'm hearing is we probably want to have an acknowledgement that we ought to be really thankful that we're giving you this 50-50 because it's all yours. I don't know. That's a legitimate difference.
There's different interpretations of
It
that.
is a legitimate difference in interpretation.
And there was that idea that I talked with you before the meeting started, that, I and others on the city council would appreciate having some teeth when it comes to the school district paying the perhaps agreed invoice that's in that settlement agreement. We haven't been paid yet for past maintenance on the canal that I'm aware of. And it's definitely a cost. I hope we have those costs marked.
We haven't ever had an agreement before today to pay those. So that's easily similar.
But that's also part of the disagreement, right? That's
I
also part of
guess,
this
I don't know.
ongoing disagreement that, we've gone and used good faith to clean it out, to prevent liability, but that's only created a huge mess on both sides of the canal. They can't just be continually piled up and piled up and piled up. You've all seen it. It's mostly just tree limbs now on both sides of the canal, and those tree limbs are dangerous for anybody that would use that area.
I agree. I think this agreement gives us a framework for resolving all of that going forward in a manner that is acceptable, I believe, to everyone. That's what I think. And once that agreement is made, I don't think you need to worry for 1 minute that the district will pay its.
Oh, we appreciate that.
Because when Keith gets an invoice, he pays it. And the only reason that he would not is if there's a disagreement. And this resolves the disagreement. So the payment issue will never be an issue again as invoices are presented. They need to be reasonable, and they will be because we trust you. And they need to, and if we need to come look at the books to say, show us so we know they are, there's a mechanism to do that. It's not I don't see that it'll be a problem ever again moving forward. I
you, frankly, I feel more comfortable addressing the board, since it's council or board, but in
Sure.
any case, how do you assume, or what do you assume about past costs on cleaning that grade?
They, whatever they are. There's no agreement to pay past costs. It was never part of what was asked.
So there's no agreement up to this if we sign it, that we would either. Before you built the school, there was a canal. There was no pipe, there was no grade, there was no cleaning. And you're saying that, oh, we'll just go from now, and since we didn't agree, or since there was a disagreement rather, we'll assume that in our favor, and we'll go forward, and whatever you've done in the past is just because we didn't have an agreement, it's on us, the city. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I haven't addressed that. I
Superintendent,
did not know
board,
that
or
was an
any
issue. If you want to talk with the board about that, you
Well,
want to
else that's who was leading this council and board.
We are. I'm just responding to the invitation to
Yes.
start giving some information, and I'm not trying to dominate the meeting. So go ahead and ask and answer.
This notion here of participating jointly together is one of the ideas that was discussed and mentioned. Other ideas were us possibly purchasing a mechanical unit together. That was also discussed, and at that particular time, both parties kind of rejected that at one point. So it's not as if it hasn't been discussed and with ongoing discussions over the years. We just haven't come to what we would call a good joint resolution.
Yes.
And so this is another attempt to try to come to another joint resolution.
Superintendent, it's a simple question I ask, because the issue of the grade that you put in has remained unresolved between the city and the district up until at least today. Is the district willing to assume the same amount of responsibility in the past as they're wanting us to agree to in the future? That's a simple question.
I can't speak for the board on that, so I don't know where they're at on that.
So I guess we're here to talk ideas and then go back to our board and councils and make decisions then, because it's hard for both entities to speak legislatively.
Honestly, I didn't know that was a concern when I got tasked with fixing it. I came to your meeting and said what I said, and went home and did what I did, tried to resolve it. So I didn't know that was a concern. All I was trying to do was answer the question that was put in front of me. And I felt like I did that to the satisfaction of both parties.
And hopefully what you're seeing is this is an effort to move the agenda forward. And that particular issue can be dealt with, but we didn't consider it as we put this together
I
today.
appreciate that. So I think a good idea as we go through this, that both entities acknowledge where we need to address the issues as we go back to our deliberative bodies. And I'll make note and ask you to deliberate on past costs.
Does anyone have an idea what
We have
those
any
costs
idea
are?
what they
Or
are?
we'll have,
See, that was my point. Mark, have you ever invoiced these for past costs?
No,
I've never seen an invoice, so
there's never been.
we have no idea what that is.
okay, so I'm just saying, we'll try to have that to you, and if the board will address that, and we'll make note of that, any other things as we go, and then we go back as a council, and you can as a board, and we'll decide what we can decide on, hopefully resolve everything.
Sure, that's the effort. So, appreciate you bringing that up.
So we move past these, if we just
Yeah.
know there's no answer, we've got to talk to the board, that's fine, that's great.
Because we don't know what the costs are.
Well, you can see that not only is it cleaning out the grate is the cost, but hauling away the material.
It's all included in the agreement.
Because,
It
well,
includes
these are also,
maintenance, hauling away the debris, and getting it out of
These are
out
part
of
of
the grates.
past
It's all
costs.
part. Yeah, I understand.
and that material is going to have to be hauled away now, even before the runoff probably begins, because to operate. the
Sign quick.
We operate,
And historically, I believe the city has cleaned that portion of the canal even before there was a grate there. From time to time, you came in and cleaned that out because underneath the 6 South Bridge there was always some buildup of debris. And I know for years they've come in and cleaned different sections of that just on Harold's property right there. So even previous to the grate and previous to the tube or the pipeline, that is an ongoing agreement that I believe the city has with the irrigation company that you guys have maintained within city limits, that debris and the stuff that was there anyways. And I think that's why you continued to maintain it, so there wasn't problems.
Again, I think there there are statutory responsibilities for doing the stormwater that the attorney provides you about, but there are reasons why we're doing some things. And there are reasons why we want to help. And they're darn good reasons, because we've got a school building we need to hook onto your sewer. We've got stuff that, we've got impact fees we need to resolve. We've had an ongoing thing with the ombudsman. So to get back to the, I don't want to dominate this, but you asked me to kind of present.
Right.
And I started in on that. I think,
Now that we got the easy things out of it.
those are really easy. Yeah, maybe we can do the hard
It's
ones
a little more
now.
complicated.
So which one's harder, the sewer or the impact fee? And I guess we've got the road improvements in front of the school too. So we got those three things we should probably
I'm not
discuss.
sure which we ought to address first.
Well, I might help a little bit, and that is, we have our city engineer, our engineer here, who's on a little bit of a limited time schedule, so maybe he could talk about both the impact fee issues as well as the traffic study that is required for that
You're
school.
talking about Mr. Bird?
I'm talking about Paul, yeah.
Okay.
So,
And if I may, just as we jump into that, I think that's a thoughtful way to approach it. The impact fee issue is one that's been ongoing in several projects. So Paul's got some data he's going to present. He can walk us through all that.
Okay.
There hopefully will not be a link between these things and the sewer issue. The sewer issue, we're on a timeline to build that school and get it ready for the kids.
Right.
And the hookup time for that's May 1. So we got a pretty quick timeline. And we would hope that we come out of here tonight. I hope you're not thinking that we have to link these all together and they all have to, all these issues have to be resolved, or we can't resolve the sewer issue. If that becomes problematic, then it creates a different set of circumstances because of the construction timeline. So with that,
Okay.
Paul, take off. Let's talk.
I'd like to proceed. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you. The table on the left gives a bunch of information which we'll refer to as we go through this, but I'd like to refer you right to the big yellow colored area that says Wasatch High School. So when you assess impact fees, there are different methods that you can use. For schools, one way is to use square footage. The other one is to do it based on students. In both cases, it's based off of the Institute of Traffic Engineers. They have a big book where they studied schools over a 40-year period, and they issued data based on if your school is this big, we expect this number of trips. If it has this many students. And so what I've done here in this table is giving you a comparison of the square footage analysis along with the per student rate. So if the city were to assess this as a brand new building, over 300,000 square feet, with the rate in the Institute of Traffic Engineers that the city used to do the traffic calculation, and it's $64 in ERU, you can see that the fee would have been over $265,000. The city and the school district in their discussions have said, well, because you're tearing down an old high school, we can at least deduct that square footage. So that put it at just over 154,000 square feet, which meant a traffic impact fee of 131,000. Again, I'm just using round numbers. Well, if we looked at it on a per student basis, if you look back up at that table, the second paragraph, ITE is estimated between 0.71 and 3.96 trips per day per student. So going back to the yellow table, I've looked at the maximum condition by the Institute of Traffic Engineers, the minimum, the average, and then also in my practice, I've worked for 5 different school districts, helped design some other high schools. When we designed the Corner Canyon High School, because all of their students at that time were going to Alta, we actually did a traffic study of Alta High School. You can see that for that school, before it was split between in the Corner Canyon and Alta, they had a traffic rate of about just a little over 3 trips per student per day. So based on that per student basis, you can see the maximum for ITE, the fee would be just over 65,000. Comparing it to the Alta high school study, it would be almost 54,000. If we use the average by the Institute of Traffic Engineers, it would be just over 36,000. If we use the minimum, 23,000. And then if we deducted the students that were in the old high school from the maximum students projected for the current high school, it would be just under 16,000. There at the bottom where it says high school notes, I just want to share 2 things with you. Both of these came from our traffic study by Stanley Consultants for the Corner Canyon High School. It says because the ratio of floor space to student population varies widely among schools surveyed by ITE, the number of students is the best indicator of how much traffic will be generated by a school. And this comes from a study of another school, and we think that's most appropriate for this building, especially when you consider the large common areas, that it's a 3-gym high school, has a large auditorium. When you look at it on a square foot basis, there's lots of square footage that doesn't necessarily relate to traffic generated by students. The other thing that was pointed out in this study, it says the amount of traffic in the city will not increase or decrease with the construction of a new school. The construction of housing units, retail stores, and other places of employment will increase traffic. The number of children that live in the town determine how many schools are required. That's actually a common thing that I've seen over my career when it comes to traffic studies. The schools don't necessarily generate traffic, it's all the other things, houses, stores. Although you can still assess a traffic impact fee to a school, some of our other communities that we've done schools for, they have not based on this theory. Now they've done traffic studies together to see, hey, do we need to widen the road, or turn lanes needed, or stoplights needed. But they haven't just assessed the school district a fee just because a new school is built. But that's up to your discretion, and that's just how other cities go about it. So questions about the estimates that we've given based on an alternative methodology of assessing it by student.